This is the Real Change Wilmington podcast, episode 22, with our guest today, Katie Terrell with Hope House.
You know, someone might get a HUD voucher, but there's no housing available. We have one guest right now who is getting ready to move to Highland County because they're building affordable housing there. They have a new complex that is income-based that she qualifies for. So she's taking this new adventure to leave home and to move to a different county. We have two successful stories of women moving into permanent supportive housing. They had to go to Fayette County because we don't have that here in Clinton County.
Hey everyone, this is your host of the Real Change Wilmington podcast, Dustin Pierce, joined like always with my co-host,
Emily Spencer.
Real Change Wilmington is your positive, constructive, and lighthearted source of local news, events, and resources. And on our podcast, we interview leaders of local organizations to help squash rumors and just foster a greater sense of community in Wilmington. So before we get started today, we're just going to do a quick check-in. Emily, how are you doing today?
Well, like we discussed on the last podcast, I got a smoker. We did have a little bit of issue trying to get it to light, but we sorted that out. And I used it to make the food for Make Shark for the wine walk. And I was told I had the best weenies in Clinton County. So
yeah, the best weenies in Clinton County. There you go.
It's my claim to fame. Get used to it. What's going on with you, Dustin?
So some people might know we started a campaign to get the community involved to help beautify Sugar Tree Ministries, or the outside of the area right there. And I've been incredibly excited just the people that have contributed. Some people that, don't really support Sugar Tree Ministries, but just want to help our community in downtown be a bit nicer. So definitely they dropped some serious change to help us with that project. So I'm excited that it's almost finished. So next steps on that project are going to be pushing the city to help clean up some of the telephone pole issues, I guess, or crosswalk issues, and painting the roads and stuff. Yeah, so I'm just excited that how the community has responded and rallied around making our town more beautiful. So on today's episode, we get to talk with Katie Terrell with the Hope House, and we got to ask her about the history of the Hope House, what brought her to the role, some of the different demographics of women who come to the Hope House. We also talked about what sex trafficking looked like in Wilmington, how it's different than maybe people think or see on TV. And we go over some of their house rules, some of the success stories of women who have had to stay at the Hope House, and then some who are even coming back now later after getting their lives together and volunteering at the Hope House to help see women, I guess, through a rough time in their life. We also had a lot of fun in this episode. Katie was a pretty cool guest. She was definitely like pulling teeth getting her to share her story in the beginning. But by the end, we were definitely cracking some jokes back and forth. So I hope that people enjoy listening to our banter while also getting some good information about the Hope House.
It's always good to have our guests keep it real on the Real Change Wilmington podcast.
Yeah, Katie was keeping it real.
Even if she didn't need to be told to.
Yeah, for sure. So without further ado, we're going to bring in Katie and get this podcast started. All right, Katie, welcome to the Real Change Wilmington podcast. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Excited to get to know more about Hope House. You've been dodging us for a while, so.
Yes, it's true. Sorry about that.
I guess you're busy or something over at Hope House. All right, so tell us about yourself. Did you grow up in Wilmington?
Not in Wilmington, but in Clinton County. I grew up in New Vienna.
Okay.
And graduated from East Clinton High School.
And how'd you end up here?
Wow. Like, fast forward? Or living in Wilmington?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you can go back to your childhood if you want to, I guess.
Okay, thank you. So I moved to Wilmington to work at Hope House.
Okay. So that is kind of the end of the story, I guess.
Yeah, that's the fast forward version.
How many years ago was that?
2 years ago.
Oh, so what did you do before this?
So I have lived in various places before moving back to Ohio. Most recently, I was living in Mexico as a missionary at an orphanage.
Okay. That's crazy. How did you end up there?
Well, I was in Spain walking across the country and just happened to mention that I might want to work at an orphanage one day and ended up in Mexico.
Okay.
So you're just casually walking across Spain?
Just walking. How did you end up in Spain?
I saw a book at a bookstore one day that said, people do this as a spiritual pilgrimage. And,
okay.
Thought that'd be fun.
What's in Spain that's spiritual?
The bones of the apostles.
In Spain?
Yes. The ends of the earth.
Okay. Oh, I guess so.
I mean, if you're on that side of the country.
Sure. Like apostles like Paul and stuff, they in Spain?
James buried under the cathedral in Santiago.
That's cool. I didn't know that.
So they say.
All right. So that was 2 or 3 years ago?
So moving to Wilmington was 2 years ago. Mm-hmm. The orphanage was 2016, 2018. Walked across Spain, 2014.
Okay. Are you married, have kids? Like, what's your story?
Not.
No?
Just me.
Just you?
Yeah.
Traveling the world?
Yeah.
Saving people's lives?
Doing what I do.
Okay. All right. So what made you move back then?
I think there's something about home.
Mm-hmm.
And I experienced that a lot with my guests as well. So I definitely understand that connection. When I was in Mexico, my grandmother passed away. She was living here at Cape May. And that sort of fast forward the desire to be closer to home. My parents live here. Both of my brothers and their families live here. So yeah, this is home.
Yeah. And then did you have the Hope House job lined up when you moved back, or did you
I did not. No, I was looking for a way to connect and to give back to the community. And so I started volunteering right away at Hope House when I moved back. But I was here for a couple of years before I moved into Hope House.
Okay. There. Okay. So you live there?
I do live there.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
Okay. Not that I need your personal information.
We've got name and address so far. We're working our way up.
Did you go to college or anything?
I went to college at Baldwin Wallace, which is near the Cleveland Airport.
Okay. And then how were you offered the job at Hope House?
So like everything else, Hope House shut down for a while during COVID. And as they were working to reopen and rebuild, they needed more volunteers. So it was sort of a staggered reopening because we didn't have enough volunteers. And so maybe we were only able to be open a couple of nights a week. Our numbers were low in terms of guests because the guests never knew from night to night were we going to be open or not. So the board decided that one way to move forward to being able to be open 7 nights a week would be to have a house manager move on site to be able to work all those nights when we didn't have volunteers. So that's what I moved into Hope House to do, to work 4 or 5 nights a week so that our doors could be open for our guests.
So before that, was it just volunteers, or was there someone like you before who lived there and managed?
We did not, at our current location, we have not ever had a house manager. So that was something new in our facility there by the railroad tracks.
Okay. When did you guys move there?
We moved there in 2019.
2019?
Searching my brain. Yes, 2019 we bought the building. Yes.
I heard that, I should say this in the podcast, I heard that my neighbor's house used to be Hope House, across from Domino's Pizza.
Yes.
Okay. They told me that before, so I don't know.
Well, now I know where you live. Okay.
You don't know which house. It could be any of the houses in the area. I live at Domino's Pizza, okay? Just like you live at Hope House.
No judge.
So what's the history of the Hope House?
The history of the Hope House. So Hope House opened in 2014. At the beginning of that year, the founding director, Tammy Beery, and her husband were driving through Wilmington. They saw a homeless family, not unlike today. But the difference was that Tammy started asking questions. Where is there for this family to go? So she connected with the homeless shelter, found out they have so many beds that are almost always full, always having a waiting list, always having someone in need to stay there. And she connected with Sugar Tree Ministries, who run the men's shelter, which solves the problem with if there are additional men who need a place to stay. Okay, that's where they go. But what about the women? At that point, there was nowhere extra for the women and children to go. So they were staying in unhealthy relationships. They were staying in the tent camps. They were staying places that they didn't need to be staying because there was nowhere safe for them to go. So she went to city council. She started talking to people in the community. And that same year, in October of 2014, Hope House opened. Actually in a church, at Crossroads Church. And it was, hey, we're going to open the doors. We're going to be volunteer run. There's not showers. There's not laundry, but there is this safe place for women and children to stay. Eventually, we came into the building the house across from Domino's, we're able to have 5 beds in that house. And then in 2019, moved into the place where we are now. So now our capacity is 10.
Was that the reason for the move, just to have more beds?
Yes.
Okay.
And to have a more permanent house. So the board of Hope House owns this house that we're in now, whereas we were able to use the house across from Domino's because the former director owned that house.
Okay. And then it became a nonprofit?
It's always been a nonprofit. It's always been Christian run by an independent board of directors.
Okay.
So
not under like Clinton County Foundation, it's its own nonprofit?
Right.
Okay.
Right. We do get grants through the Clinton County Foundation, which is incredible. The support in this community is really wonderful. The other thing when we started was that Tammy learned that when a shelter is state funded or government funded, there are obviously certain regulations that you have to follow. And so she also learned that women couldn't stay at the homeless shelter if they couldn't pass a background check, or at the time if they didn't have an ID. There's so many people living on the streets that don't have those kinds of things and that aren't able to do that. And so she wanted to make it low barrier. So we don't require identification. We don't ask for background checks. We don't ask for drug tests. We don't ask for any of those things. We have women who are released from the jails and they call us and say, we're releasing someone today and she doesn't have anywhere to go tonight. Do you have a bed? People being released from the hospital. She has nowhere to go. Can she stay with you tonight? The police finding someone walking the streets in the middle of the night, calling us, hey, do you have a bed? So we wanted to be able to be open for all of those women too.
Why do people not have IDs for it? It sounds like it's a really simple process to pay like $35 and get an ID.
I hear they're free now, actually.
They're free? Okay.
Yes. So it's easy to get it, but it's also easy to lose if
like
you're living on the streets.
It?
Yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Or you are fleeing a domestic situation and you take nothing with you.
Okay. How easy is it to like actually get? Do you need like your ID? How do you get a new ID if you don't have an ID?
Without having a
Yeah.
I have never done it without a piece of mail, I guess.
So you just need a piece of mail. That's it.
So honestly, I don't know. I haven't done it.
Because I kind of want to change my name or something and have a different identity as well.
Name changes require, yes.
No, I still want to be Dustin, but I also want to have a secret identity too,
So you actually have to change it first on your social security card, which is a lot harder to get than.
I don't mean legally. I just mean like a
just
separate, different person. Like, like pretend I'm somebody else.
Maybe put a call out there. Anyone doing fake IDs?
I'm just kidding. Anyways.
Back on track.
Yeah. So we talked about the history of Hope House. Is that what we just talked about?
Mm-hmm.
All right. What services do you offer?
So we provide overnight shelter for women and children. We will accept girls of any age with an accompanying adult. Boys have to be 12 and under for the safety of them and our guests. Overnight shelter, we are open from 8 p.m. to 8 a.m. So during those hours, the women can come and stay with us. We have showers. We do laundry. So when the women come in, they are given a clean pair of pajamas. They can take a shower, get into those clean PJs, and then we can wash the clothes that they're wearing, as well as any other clothing that they bring in that they want washed. We have a full kitchen. So sometimes we have families or churches that will bring in hot meals for us. We also have people donate food to us, which is great because the women can come in and cook for themselves and each other if they want to. We do lights out from 11 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. to try to encourage a good night's sleep. So we've got single beds for everybody. Everybody has their own bed. They're real beds. They're not, mats thrown on the floor. Nice, comfortable beds. And in the morning, the ladies can get up and have coffee, make breakfast, change into their clean clothing, and we pack sack lunches that they can take with them during the day. And then during the daytime hours, after they leave, we wash all of the bedding, wash all of the pajamas, wash all the towels, so everything is cleaned and sanitized when they come back the next night.
Okay. What do the women do during the day?
Some of them go to work.
Okay.
Some of them try to get IDs. They get connected to resources. Maybe they have counseling or connect with other services at like Talbot House, Brightview. Some of them just hang out. We have a lot of women who have disabilities, whether they're developmental disabilities, mental disabilities. Some are caught up in addiction. So for them, they don't have a lot to do during the day. They can go to the library. Our library is open during the day, which is a nice place to go, especially if it's, raining or not good weather. And then the majority of our guests go to Sugar Tree Ministries for one meal a day. So usually that's dinner, but there's a couple days that they do lunches at Sugar Tree.
So how long is the average stay for somebody? Do you have women that have been staying there for years?
So the longest that we have had someone stay with us was 14 months. So when we first opened, the limit was 30 days. And if you talk to shelters everywhere, they will all say, with COVID, we kind of all had to throw that out the window, in addition to the lack of affordable housing. So before, you could reasonably expect someone to spend those 30 days working towards finding housing. Today, you can't expect someone to be able to get a HUD voucher, get an apartment, be able to move in 30 days. Because the options just aren't there. And so we don't tell people that they have that limit anymore. We encourage them to be working towards something because we don't want people to see a shelter as a permanent solution. But sometimes connecting them to those resources, someone might get a HUD voucher, but there's no housing available. We have one guest right now who is getting ready to move to Highland County because they're building affordable housing there. They have a new complex that is in Chem Base that she qualifies for. So she's taking this new adventure to leave home and to move to a different county. We have 2 successful stories of women moving into permanent supportive housing, but they had to go to Fayette County because we don't have that here in Clinton County. So we haven't restricted the amount of time that women have had to stay because of those reasons. So we have guests who will come in for one night. Maybe they moved to Wilmington to live with a boyfriend. The relationship ends. Immediately tonight, I don't have anywhere to go. But tomorrow, I can call my mom. I can call a friend. I can figure out what I'm going to do. But tonight, in this moment, I don't have anywhere to go. Or being released from the hospital or jail and just needing that one night to figure things out. We have our average last year was 24 nights.
And are the women able to leave their possessions in the Hope House?
They are not. So we are considered a drop-in shelter, so we don't reserve beds. And because of that reason, everybody has to take everything with them, so we don't end up with a lot of abandoned luggage.
When you say there's a lack of affordable housing and people trying to find or using, even if they get a HUD voucher, there's no housing for them. Where are the affordable housing sites in Wilmington? Like, what's an affordable housing look like? What are the areas in town already, I guess?
I think they're scattered.
Yeah.
Like Wilmington Green, for example. But, if there are no openings, there are less landlords than there used to be, less landlords who are willing to accept HUD vouchers. There's a lot more people that need more low-income housing because of the economy and everything going on in people's lives. And for someone to be living on the streets and looking for a 1-bedroom apartment, and 1-bedroom apartments are $900, $1,000. Like, that's not reasonable. Obviously, you're not going to be able to make that work if you don't have the HUD voucher. And then if they don't accept HUD, and then just that being available. I mean, I don't know if you see housing, like apartments go up on Facebook Marketplace, but it's like, it's there and immediately it's taken down because these people are bombarded with applications because so many people are looking for housing. So it's, yeah.
I have more questions about that, but my mind's...
Are you zoning out?
No, but I'm thinking of 1,000 questions and then they just all go to mush because I'm listening.
Aw.
So why do you only serve women for?
Because that's where the need was when we opened.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have that question, parentheses, Emily's hot take. What the heck was that about? I forget.
You have a hot take?
You're talking about how in emergency situations, it's always women and children first.
Yes.
And I'm like, I don't get that, because shouldn't it be men and women first? Because you can always make more children. And Dustin was like, I'm going to put this down. And I was like, you make sure it says hot take.
That's what it was, yeah. Okay.
Would Hope House ever consider expanding to house men, or would it have to be in a separate building?
It would definitely have to be in a separate building for sure.
Is it just a safety precaution?
Yes, absolutely.
What are the demographics of the people you serve? And I talked a bit about it. Obviously it's just women, but like what brings them there? Mental illness, like addiction, abuse, finances, what?
All of the things. Okay. Every woman has a unique story.
They're not all the same.
No.
It's just women after all.
Right?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to cancel for that for sure. I should edit that out.
Things that might get Dustin canceled out the window.
I'm obviously kidding. Okay.
So we have women who come to us aging out of the foster system.
Okay.
18 years old. We have women who have developmental disabilities, but are considered old enough and capable enough of making their own choices. So they're sort of in this gap between what services are available to them and what they're capable of doing. We have women who have experienced trauma, everything from losing a family member that spiraled them into addiction, to physical traumas, to domestic situations. We have women who grew up on the streets or in shelters or in tent communities, and so this is what they know. Everyone's story is different. We have women who were living with family members, and either the family said, all right, we can't take care of you anymore. You've got to figure something else out. Or there's a conflict in the family and they have to move out. Or family members need a break from the mental illness, which is very difficult to live with. We have women who were living with friends and the tension of living together didn't work out. We have women who were living with a friend who passed away and the lease was in that person's name. And so they have no right to that apartment. So now they're on the streets. We have women who were living in their cars and then car broke down, car gets repossessed, and there goes their shelter. So the stories are, we have women who were living in the tent camps and then the tent camps are cleared because they were on city property and now they have nowhere to stay. So everyone's story is different.
Is there a feeling of like shame when people come to stay with you? Like I imagine that's a pretty low point in your life and you have to go stay at a shelter.
I think it's the bravest thing that my guests like.
I don't mean they should be shamed.
Yes,
like,
no, I totally understand that. Some of them I would say yes. You can definitely see how hard it is to reach out for help. I feel blessed that every time that I have fallen on hard times, I've had a family member that I could reach out to who could support me as I began that walk back to being able to be on my own again. And that's the only difference between me and a woman who steps on the porch a lot of times, is that she doesn't have that support system. And certainly, yes, there is some shame on their part. And that is why we're there, is to remind them of their worth and to give them that hot shower and those clean clothes to restore that dignity again and remind them who they are.
Mm-hmm. What are some stories of being able to help women that you are, I guess, proud of?
So last night, every night we have 2 volunteers that stay at Hope House during those overnight hours from 8 to 8. And last night, both of my volunteers started out as guests at Hope House. So the fact that they have walked through that journey of sobriety, they walked through that journey of having apartments of their own now, Actually, the original 2 volunteers that I had scheduled, one of them had to cancel, and the volunteer that stepped up to take her place. So the original 2 volunteers were both former guests, and the one that stepped up to take her place was also a former guest. So 3. So to be able to see them get to a place where they have that confidence and that desire to give back is incredible. And it's so inspirational to our other guests because they see, I can get out of this situation. I can get to a place where I'm the one giving back, where I'm the one who makes sure that the door is open every night to women who need a safe place to stay.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
On a less serious topic, I wanted to ask, so someone mentioned before that how, I guess, I don't know, it's human trafficking or domestic abuse looks different in Wilmington than it does like maybe in a big city or like in movies. I don't know if this is something we should talk about, but what does trafficking look like in a rural county like ours? Is that a good question? Like, or like for people that information, like
less serious.
Well, I know.
I guess I didn't see that question before I said that.
The stories that I've heard from my guests are that they've had family members who have sold them for sex. We have helped women who grew up here and ended up in another city, in another state, trafficked, and were able to get out and came home for help and needed a safe place to stay while they walked through the court process of being able to file charges against someone who took them from their home under the lure of this better life and ended up in a sex trafficking ring. So it happens in this community. It's one of those things that obviously we don't want to talk about. We don't want to think about happening here when our sisters and daughters and mothers are the ones that could be affected by this.
Yeah, yikes. I don't know where to go from there. Sorry, that was really deep. Anyways, I had that question someplace else and I threw it in there. I'm so sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, I think what I heard someone say is that like sex trafficking and stuff like that looks different here because like sometimes women are just like dependent on people, I guess. Mm-hmm. So like they're just like kept in a relationship because they're dependent, whether it be like with drugs or like financially. So like they're, I guess, enslaved in that way. Does that happen?
Absolutely. And, you know, that was one of the reasons for Hope House to open was so that women could be more likely to get out of that situation because they'd have a safe place to stay. That doesn't mean it's easy to get out of those situations, whether you are addicted to what they're offering you or you have children who you don't want to put out on the street, or you just don't know where you're going to go from here, or you're worried about them finding you. So being able to open our doors to women like that, and we have had phone calls like that. I've gone and picked people up from their apartments to get them out of those situations and had the police come and interview those women and be able to file charges against husbands and boyfriends and mothers. And it's not just men against women, it's women against women, it's women against men. So it's all the things are also happening in our community. We really do have incredible resources in this community through our police department, through the Alternatives to Violence. Mm-hmm. People really care in this community and want to step up and help. But it's up to that woman to make that decision that she needs to get out and is willing to.
Yeah. I told this story before in the podcast, but I was going to the library one day to fax something because I don't have a fax machine. Only the library has a dinosaur like that there. And it was locked. It was closed. And this lady was standing outside who's obviously homeless. And I was like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, this is one of those people from out of town who's just like using our systems here. I think I thought that because I asked her where she was from. She said Xenia. And then I was like, well, why are you here? I didn't say that meanly, but like she basically said that she was escaping a domestic violence situation. So, oh, wow, like I shouldn't be so prejudiced against people. I should talk to people more. And yeah, anyways, so.
No, I appreciate you sharing that story, though, because so many of us can jump to conclusions. And I know who my guests are when I see them on the street, and I know their stories and I know why they're there. But I also know that the majority of people in town driving by don't know their story, don't know why they have a backpack on, don't know why they're sitting on the side of the street rocking back and forth. So I get that. I think we all have to remember that we're all human, that is someone's sister, daughter, mother, friend. I've had guests who I went to high school with because I'm from this community. I have lost friends to addiction who were in the homeless community. And so reminding ourselves that everyone has a story, that we've all made mistakes, we've all had hard things happen to us, and we don't know what someone else has gone through. So to try to have compassion and love and mercy on our hearts for everyone, rather than judging, say a prayer.
Yeah. So now less serious questions. I promise this time. What are some of your house rules?
Ooh, house rules. Everyone hates the house rules. Okay. So when our guests come in, they have to lock up all of their belongings. They hate that. But
they hate it because they want to use them, or
because for a lot of them, that's all they have. And so especially a guest's first night in, it can be a deal breaker. I've had people say no and turn around and walk back out. It's hard to trust when I say, I'm going to lock this up in the closet and no one is going to touch it. The next person to touch it will be you in the morning when you leave. It's hard to trust that. But we do it for the safety of our guests, for the safety of our volunteers. We don't search the things that they lock up in the closets. They could have weapons in there. They could have drugs in there. We've had rotten food in there. Like all of it. We don't check it. Because that's their belongings. So we lock all of that up for the safety of everyone. They're allowed to bring in with them their cell phones and their chargers. A lot of them smoke, so they're allowed to bring in a couple of cigarettes out of the pack with their lighters. That's pretty much it. Everything else that they should need overnight, we provide for them. And a lot of that is donated by members of the community. So shampoo, body wash, laundry detergent, Kleenexes, cough drops, food, water, all these things we try to provide for them so that they don't have to bring anything in. So yes, locking up all of their belongings is one. Lights out from 11 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. And lights out means you're not in the kitchen making dinner. You're not on the porch smoking. You are in your bed, quiet. I can't say you have to be asleep. We allow people to be on their cell phones as long as they're quiet, the volume's off, or they've got their earbuds in. But that's hard for some people, especially if they're coming down off of a drug that they used before they came in. We allow people to leave early if someone wants to leave in the middle of the night because they're coming down and they know they can't sit still and they just need to get out. We'll check them out at 2:00 in the morning and let them leave, but they can't come back until 8:00 the next night, so that we're not having people go out and use and come right back in. We have so few rules. Wash your own dishes. Be respectful. We prefer that they not use foul language, which is very difficult.
Do you have a cussing jar?
Ooh, maybe we should. It would be full every day, I'm sure.
Wilmington has a cussing jar.
Can we tell a story about
Ooh,
who?
yes.
Okay, I don't think they'll mind us telling the story, but it's very funny. So we have a cussing jar at Make Sharp because Emily has a very foul mouth. And so do I sometimes too. And we got to be professional. So our thing is, if every time we cuss, we put a note in the jar, and whoever has the most notes in the jar at the end of the month has to buy the other person coffee.
Okay.
That's our thing. So yesterday, the mayor and the city director came into their office, and the mayor was so funny. He's like, I know what that is. And I was like, our cussing jar? He's like, we have one of those too. And I was like, you do? And he's like, yep. And when we say a bad word, we have to like write the whole sentence out and like put $1 in. And I was like, oh my gosh. I want to see all the sentences that they use cuss words in. Anyways,
yes,
I don't know how that would work for you.
It is difficult because when you're accustomed to using foul language in your everyday sentences, it is hard. But we try to just encourage the women. We're trying to be respectful of everyone, and so that's just one way that we can show respect for one another is by speaking positive.
Yeah, for sure. So lock up your stuff, lights out, no cussing.
Right. So we do check in from 8 to 9:30 p.m. Women have to check in during that time period. So that's one that people really don't like.
Why? They want to check in before or after or what?
They'd like to come in later a lot of times.
Okay.
So the only way we would let someone in after 9:30 would be if they came in with a police officer. I answer the phone 24 hours a day. So except when you guys call.
Yikes, keeping it real on the Real Change Unlimited podcast.
Katie doesn't need to be told, keep it real, Wilmington. Katie's just out here, keeping it real.
I should call like I'm a woman. Katie, I need help. Will you be on our podcast?
Oh, God. So yes, if the police call and let us know that they have someone who needs a bed, we will allow them to come in after that time period. If it's like 4:30 in the morning, I'm just very clear with them and saying, yes, they can come in, but they still have to be out by 8 o'clock like everybody else. So, and the other would be if we had a woman who was working a job that she didn't get off work until 10 or 11 o'clock at night. If we had a copy of her schedule, then we would allow her to come in later.
But that's logistically hard, though. I mean, because you have one room with all the beds in it. So when someone's coming in later and people are asleep, it's probably disruptive.
Yes.
All right. Next section is just about homelessness in general. What do you think would need to happen in our community to prevent or reduce the number of women who need to stay in homeless shelters?
Affordable housing.
Period?
Yeah. 100%.
Okay. Even if they have like mental illness, addiction, if they just have that affordable housing, that would help.
Yes, absolutely. I think the majority of my guests would excel in apartments of their own. We do have those who struggle with more severe mental illness that have done really well at like transitional housing through Talbert House, but that is not a permanent solution either. It's a temporary situation. So for them, like a group home setting might be better off. And a lot of times we will work with them. And a lot of times those guests will end up in larger communities like Lebanon, Cincinnati, Dayton that have more of those options available.
Do we have any here? Group homes for people who have mental illness?
I'm not sure what New Housing Ohio does group homes, and I'm not sure if they have, I'm not sure what their housing is like here in Wilmington.
Okay. Is it like a resistance from the community to build affordable housing, or is it just that there's no developers for that? What do you think the issue is? Because I always think there's a stigma against affordable housing, like maybe it's trashy, or it's like all the people who have issues are going to live there. Is that true? Like, is that the stigma?
I think that definitely is the stigma. You know, certainly if you had to choose your neighbor, would you choose someone who you see on the side of the road with carrying around a trash bag full of stuff, or someone who is more like the person that you grew up next to? And, you know, so I do understand that. Yeah.
Do you think our community can address this issue?
I hope so. I hope they want to. I think wanting to have the conversation and be willing to work towards change is the first step, because it feels like a lot of the conversations right now are not about helping. They're about hiding. Like, yeah, there's homeless people. We just don't want to see it. Okay, but that doesn't solve anything. Oh, there's a camp. We don't like the way it looks. Let's clear it out. Okay, but that doesn't solve where these people are going to live now. Mm-hmm. So being open to real change, real solutions.
She gets it. She gets it.
A letter from his attorney.
Keep our name out of your mouth. Yeah, I'm sorry to interrupt you. You were flattering us. Go on.
Yes, absolutely. You guys know what's up.
So this ties into that question. What gives you hope and what keeps you going?
My guests. They are the most incredible women I have ever met. When I first moved in, I was a hot mess too. And they were so welcoming to me and encouraging to me. And we all just created this family, this community together. And a couple of days ago, we posted on Facebook that it was a gorgeous night. And everyone was just hanging out on the porch together like you would with your friends. And that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like we have been able to build, because there's not that difference between volunteer and guest and former guest. And it's just, we're all women who are made in the image of God. Mm-hmm. And being able to see the potential in each of these women, being able to share in their joys and successes, and to give them a hug and encourage them when they've had a bad day, and being able to see ourselves in one another. I think it absolutely gives me hope every single night.
Have you always had this optimism and love for people, or
yes,
did something change? Are you ever a cynical person?
Never.
Okay. All right. Next questions are just going to be about some misconceptions and criticisms, I guess. I don't think we have that many, but Emily wants to know, how do you prevent bed bugs?
Ooh.
I'm terrified of bed bugs.
Okay.
Just for anybody listening.
Okay. We have never had bed bugs.
Okay.
So lots of laundry. We do lots of laundry, locking up the belongings. So we're not bringing in blankets off of the street or out of the camps. We're not bringing in clothing unless it goes straight into the washing machine. But laundering the sheets and bedding every single day, the pajamas, the clothes that they're wearing. So the women come in and they go straight to the shower and their laundry is contained and goes straight to the wash. So that, I think, is a huge part of it, really. So
I worked for daycares for a long time, and that's where you find the bed bugs.
Emily was saying the solution to bed bugs is burning your house down. And I was like, oh my gosh. She hates them that bad. So anyways.
Yeah, I go into the hotel. If I go to a hotel, I'm like on the sheets. Like,
well, but there is that stigma that people living on the street are dirty, are the ones who carry the bed bugs. And it's not. It's the hotels. It's your house. It's
my house.
It's the daycares. I mean, it could be anyone's house.
Well, I mean, so bed bugs are carried in by bats, typically. Ohio has a lot of bats. And then they get...
This is true. We need to fact check this. Okay.
And then they come in on trucks in warehouses, and this is a factory town. The bed bugs, not the people.
Yeah, sure.
I know there are bats in the buildings at Wilmington College, so I don't know if they've ever had issues with bed bugs, but...
It's my fear.
Spreading gossip on the No Change Owns podcast.
I misnamed somebody on the last one. So
you misnamed somebody?
Yeah, I called General Denver John Denver.
Oh yeah, gosh, that was so embarrassing. Next question is: there is a notion that women are allowed back into Hope House again and again, no matter how many times they break the rules. Do you allow women back in who continue to break rules?
Yes. So, say a woman breaks the rule, we'll tell her that she can't come back the next night. But when she is willing to follow the rules again and re-sign the rules, because we do have a very short intake form that we do with our guests when they come in for the first time, and it includes those basic house rules. So they're signing on to say, we promise to respect your rules and the volunteers and the other guests who are here. So if we have someone who violates a rule, say she sneaks in something that, we've told her that she can't bring in, and she's caught with that, okay, you can't come back tomorrow night, but as early as the night after that, if you are willing to follow the rules, then you can come back. So we do have some women in the community who we've told can't stay with us. It's not because I guess it is because they've broken the rules, in that they cannot be respectful. Mm-hmm. And that's due to mental illness. And so the lack of mental health support in our community is a real challenge, because I know it's heartbreaking to tell them that they can't come in, because the alternative is living on the street or ending up in jail in our community. And if they're on the street, chances are they're going to cause a disturbance and end up in jail. So that is very challenging. But I can't allow someone to continue to come in if they are threatening the safety of my guests and volunteers. So that's where I have to draw the line.
Can the court systems help people with mental illness? Like going to jail, getting court-ordered help? I don't know if that's the thing. I'm just spitting out information. But does the court system help people with mental illness?
They can.
Or just jail them?
Jail, if you're going to stay in Clinton County, it feels like right now jail is the option, because we don't have inpatient treatment here in town. And even if someone does go through, say, a 14-day stay at a facility in Columbus, she's released with a bag full of medication and is expected to take that properly. So that's one thing that we try to help our guests with, the ones who we know are going to come back night after night, to help them take their medication properly and to make sure they're getting refills on time, knowing that these were prescribed for a reason and they're going to help you be able to have a better life if you're taking them properly. So that is definitely a challenge when people are living on the streets, is proper medication. And that's even, you go to the hospital because you're sick and you're given antibiotics, remembering to take those twice a day or even know where they're at by the end of the day is a challenge for a lot of our guests.
That seems like it, just logistically, you have no place to stay. You don't know where your meal's coming from. And then you can take these pills. How do you even get them? How do you even fill them and stuff? So that's a lot.
Yeah.
Are there any other community criticisms we should talk about in the podcast? I don't know all your dirty secrets, maybe. So just keep it silent, I guess.
Right.
But what do people say, I guess, or question about Hope House?
I feel like, and maybe I shouldn't put this out in the universe, that Hope House has pretty much been able to stay out of a lot of the negativity lately, that people have more of a stigma about the men on the streets and assuming that they're causing violence and being more destructive, and people have more compassion in their hearts for women and children. But I have also heard more recently from community members that they're seeing a lot more women on the streets, and that's not untrue. So
what is the criticism with Hope House then with that issue?
Just the question of why. Why are there so many homeless women in the community? Why are we seeing more women all of a sudden?
It's because you exist, right? You just bring them here.
Yeah, no. So, we have been full. So we have 10 beds. We've been full in the last couple of weeks, but none of those guests have been new. They have all been women that we have served before, who some of them come sporadically. We probably average 5 to 7 women a night on a regular basis. So when we do have 10 or have to turn away a guest or work with the other shelters to try to find space for people for overflow, it's those people who come sporadically all coming at once. So I haven't seen this influx of strangers from other communities that some people say are.
Yeah, that's a good question. So do you get people from outside of Wilmington and Clinton County?
Occasionally we do.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And sometimes it's people passing through.
Okay.
We've had, some weird instances of people leaving home and just kind of working their way north or south or east or west and just happen to pass through this community and get picked up by an officer who knows that we can provide them with a bed for the night and we don't ever see them again.
Okay.
We have people who, like you said, flee a domestic situation from a nearby county, and this is safer than where they were before. Primarily, though, they're women and children from Clinton County. And Clinton County being not just Wilmington, we serve women from Blanchester, from New Vienna, from Sabina. The Sabina police will bring women to us. The Blanchester police will bring women. So,
is there a women's shelter in those cities?
There's not.
Okay.
So we serve all of Clinton County.
Okay. Anything else we should chat about in the podcast before we jump off?
We do an event every October called A Night of Hope, and it's hosted at the Murphy Theater. So this year it will be on Wednesday, October 4th. Last year was our first Night of Hope. October is our anniversary month, so that's why it's in October. So last year we had a combination of music and women sharing their stories about how Hope House has helped them. So we're just in the planning stages of that this year. So this will be our 9th anniversary. And hopefully everyone can come out to A Night of Hope in October.
That's awesome. And then how can the community help Hope House?
I feel like the community does so much and just, continue to do it. Like recently we put out a need for bottled water and boom, 30 cases of bottled water, which is amazing. So we have a needs board that we keep in our kitchen. And as we come up with needs, we write it on that board and we'll post those needs on Facebook. And people are always so generous to give their financially. Donations are accepted year round. And so that's great because we are a nonprofit independent organization. We rely on donations from individuals in the community and churches in the community to pay for everything.
Do you get any kind of grants?
We do. We have gotten local grants through the Clinton County Foundation, through the United Way Health First grants. We're applying for a couple of other local ones. And so that has been really great. Some of the organizations in town, the American Legion, Kiwanis, Lions Club, different groups like that, as well as churches, have been great supporters for us. And I'm always willing to come out and share the story and talk with people if anyone wants to.
But it might take a few months to get back to somebody.
Well, it's just exclusive to us.
Oh, I got it. So how can people connect with you if they do want to donate or volunteer or give any supplies? What's the best way to connect with Hope House?
Absolutely. So our email address is hopehouse45177@gmail.com. We are on Facebook as Wilmington Hope House. We have a website, hopehousewilmington.org, and our phone number is 937-366-1123. That is a landline, so don't text it. Yeah. Yes, I have a little girl, a 10-year-old, who asked if she could use the house phone to call her cell phone the other day, and I was like, sure, and she did it, and she was fascinated.
Wow.
Yeah, like it was the first time she'd ever used a landline before.
Yikes.
And it's cordless, so to me, it was just like, it just looks like your phone. Yeah. So it is a landline, but it transfers to my cell phone, so I'm the one who answers that, and. Yeah. And just because I answer it 24/7 doesn't mean you should call at 3 a.m. and ask if you still need bottled water. Got it.
Yeah. Anyways, Katie, thank you so much for all you do and for being on our podcast finally.
Thank you for the invitation.
See ya. Well, that does it for our show today, folks. I hope you enjoyed hearing from Katie with the Hope House. And if you have any more questions that we did not ask, remember that we are a community of empowered individuals. So you can go ask her yourself or give her a call and she might call you back.
Unless you're Real Change Wilmington.
Yeah, but you gotta wait a couple months, I suppose.
And remember to check out our website, realchangewilmington.com, for up-to-date local news, events, and resources, as well as to like and follow us on social media and YouTube. We want to keep Real Change Wilmington as a free resource to our community. So we're happy to cover the cost of website hosting and printing our paper, but those things do add up. And if you want to be a part of what we're trying to do by providing positive, constructive, and lighthearted local news, events, and resources, visit realchangewilmington.com/partner to become a community contributor for just $25 a month. And if you're a business or organization, you can contact us there as well for advertising opportunities.
Yeah, thanks, Emily. So with that, I'm Dustin Pierce.
And I'm Emily Spencer.
Keep it real, Wilmington.